Come on in, my brother. As soon as we go live, if someone would just shout out and tell me that we are live. Okay, just let me know. It's on? Okay, but you're going to tell me when we start, right? Just when I need to start talking. I want to be like, and then we were talking more about. mm. Real quick, let's do around the room. My name's Nathan. Dinero. Fidnero. Say it again. A Fidney. Sydney. That's a cool name. I like it. Candace, it's easy for us to assume that everybody knows everybody's names, and a lot of times, almost any room, there'll be a few people who are hiding the fact that they don't know everybody's names, like me. And so I want to help people. Praise God, my brother. Come right in. Great to see you. Honored to have you in the house. Uh, we're ready. We're started. Greetings to all of you who are joining us from wherever you are. Before we kick off here, I want to just take a moment and talk about our RISE Leadership Program. The goal of RISE Leadership is to develop the next generation of spiritual leaders from among our congregation. Now, we know that the Lord will raise up. The scripture says the Lord will bring high and the Lord will bring low. We know the Lord will raise up people in the right time and in the right place to propagate his kingdom. But we also know the value of preparing our hearts and humbling ourselves and applying ourselves to study, to follow the instructions of the apostles, to study to show ourselves approved. All of these things are essential for us to become what we can be. Now, here at our First Church Christ Community family, we have a tremendously talented group of young people, and we want to make sure there is an on-ramp to the highway. Have you ever been on an overpass where there's no way to get on the highway, and you can stand on the overpass and you look over and you see cars flying by at 80 miles an hour. In the meantime, you're stuck behind a tractor on Country Lane 472B, which is different than A. You see where this goes, and you're trying to find a way around, so you hit the gas, you're getting around, and there's a turtle in the road. You don't want to kill the turtle. You slam on and on the narrative goes. The point being that there has to be an on-ramp, and the on-ramp has to be designed where you're not dumped in the highway at going 7 miles an hour. You have to have time, you have to have space, you have to have room. Leadership's a lot like that. And so our RISE program, which is in its inaugural first class, first group of students, is 100% focused on developing our individual abilities and talents. That is just the RISE portion. We also have here many of our leaders, many of them already successful in career and successful in business and academia and on and on. But they are sharpening the saw. They are sharpening the axe. And I, in my own way, with my own heart, I love this kind of teaching and training because I too need to sharpen the axe of my ability, whatever gifts, for better or worse, that I have. And so I want to invest in these young people if the Lord would help me. We really are, as leaders, talking about upside down leadership. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about leading within the kingdom of heaven, which of its own declaration is very different than a secular view of leadership. Very, very unique. It's not so much that the things that are done are different as the reasons why are profoundly different. So Let me just remind you and renew this in your memory and your thoughts that all leadership is the ability to influence other people. That's all it is. Come on in, guys. Just find yourself a seat. We're glad you're here. All leadership is the ability to influence other people in a direction, in a decision, or something of the like. So let me tell you the truth about leadership. Leadership can be a negative thing. Leadership can be a dangerous thing. There are people who lead others into, as the Bible would say, paths of unrighteousness. There's a real dignified, that's Candace approved right there, paths of unrighteousness. You can use leadership for all the wrong things. You could, in the manner of the classic, middle school or high school or even college cliche, you can pressure somebody, peer pressure, into doing something dumb, something they don't really want to do. They didn't want to, to refer to this cliche, they didn't want to try the drug, but all of the people they were watching, that's leadership. It's just of the wrong kind of leadership. And so leadership can be something that is a gift or it can be a curse. Let me again give you an example of leadership as a curse. We talk a lot about in religious circles. We use a language that sounds really dramatic, but it goes like this: a generational curse. And what do we mean by that? Do we mean that there is some special class of spirits that have access to apply the judgment of one generation to another generation? That's not really what we're talking about. If there is something like that, it exists very much in the realm of spiritual warfare. And I don't want to say that does not exist. I want to point out something much less special effects, Hollywood dramatic. Um, a generational curse can be when an elder defends his or her decisions to the next generation and pre-trains them in a set of excuses, a set of justifications. They are showing leadership. They are showing how this could be done or not be done. And they're defending themselves, and they don't even know it. They didn't even intend it. They were trying to soothe their own guilt complex. They have now passed the habit of a certain justification to the next generation. That very much can be what is referred to as a generational curse. If you came from a family where it's okay to be out of control with your spirit, your temper, and you always justify it, well, that's just the way I am. You have received through the wrong sort of leadership a type of generational curse. If you received through elders in your life, we aren't smart. Um, that's a type of generational curse because they have taught you how to justify not trying by using the excuse of an identity which, first of all, probably isn't even true. And so this is an example of how leaderships can be negative. And I'm not trying to be negative with this. I just want you to see leadership is a double-edged sword. It's like technology. You can use technology for good or bad. You can use a weapon for good or bad. The same scalpel that saves the life of a person in surgery can be used to kill somebody in rage. It's not the blade, it is the intent of that blade, or the one wielding that blade, we should say. So leadership is a lot like that. We can use leadership in a negative way. We can train, teach, mentor people to be self-excusing, rage-driven justificators. That's a word for the day, justificators. Or we can use it in the opposite to show the good. So just remember, anytime you have influence over other people's actions, it's leadership. If you're in a room and you don't think anybody would do something because you did it, you don't have any sway with that group. You don't have any swing weight with that group. You don't have any influence. You are not a leader in that group. Let me just say to the young people, I would like you to get in the habit of noticing the dynamic of the rooms you are in. It's really a skill that will serve you well in your life. You have to observe. There's a saying I heard that goes like this. If you want to be knowledgeable, you have to read and study. If you want to be wise, you have to shut up and watch. You have to observe because in every room there is dynamics. Now, it's most powerful when the subject of it is not being addressed. It's most powerful when no one's thinking about it. But if you will begin to watch in whatever room you're in, who the influence centers are in that room, who are people orienting around, who laughs, and when somebody's joke is made and you make a joke, nobody laughs at your joke. It's not personal. You just don't have swing weight in that room. It's a human thing. Our job is to live our lives in such a way that over time we demonstrate through the testimony of our life, the stewardship of our life, that we are serious people. A few things that I would like to just say on a practical level. The people with influence in the room might be the loudest people in the room. They might not be the loudest people in the room. The people with the most influence in the room may say nothing. But particularly in negotiating and business and corporate type deals and all that kind of stuff, it takes time for you to learn how the dynamics of the room teaches you who the influencers in the room are. I would like you, and this is an appeal to all of you, I would like you to get out of the habit of personalizing the room. The more you personalize the room, the more you personalize the dynamics of influence, aka leadership, the more akin to putting blinders on understanding in your life. The more you personalize it. So let's say that you were and I'm just talking here, you're just going to have to let me try to open my heart to you and talk about a bunch of different things, okay? I have plenty of notes, maybe we'll get to them. So I've been in a lot of rooms where no one cared what I thought about anything. I was the youngest person in the room. I actually had a lot to say about things, and nobody cared. I didn't have any authority in that room, and I have made mistakes as a young man, as a young preacher, by thinking people cared about my opinion when they didn't care. I had no influence in that room. And I looked back after leaving that room with embarrassment sometimes because the right thing for me to do was to keep my opinion to myself because I didn't have influence. How much an individual talks is oftentimes inversely related to how much people want to hear what they have to say. And the loudest people oftentimes on social media will be the people who very few people care what they have to say. Now, there are plenty of people who are shock jocks, and how they say things and what they say is part of their entertainment. That's a whole different function. But I want you guys to think about this, and as you grow as leaders, as you grow as young adults, you will. I hope you find yourself in rooms and you remember this conversation we're having or this talk we're having right now. And I hope it comes to mind because this isn't the kind of talk you'll hear very often. I've been pastoring over 30 years and I've probably had this talk 2 or 3 times. So it's something for you to think about. All leadership is influence. When I speak, does anyone stop talking and turn to hear what I have to say? When I make a decision, does anyone think, interesting? I want to live my life so the ultimate testimony that could be said is that people followed me like I followed Christ. You see, that's leadership right there. More importantly, that's Christian leadership. So having established this idea that all leadership really is, at the end of the day, you can go more academic with your definition, you can go more pop culture with your definition, but I just want to be just as clear as I possibly can. So let me say it like this. if you think you lead, but nobody followeth, behold, thou takest a walk. uh, all leadership is people who look at you and say, they are doing enough things right that I could learn by noting what they're doing, how they're living, the decisions that they are making. So now let me adjust this definition I've given you, leadership as pure influence, and let me talk about Christian leadership, because there is a slight difference once we put Christ into our leadership ideal or goals. And it's going to go like this. Secular world, and when I say secular, I don't mean bad people. I just mean people. You understand what I'm saying? I don't mean good, bad, all that. That's a different issue. All have sinned and fallen short. Let's establish that. I'm just talking about people, for the most part, trying um, to live their lives. Um, Leadership, they would say, is how many people follow you. And they're not wrong. That is, as I've said, an exact, um, fair definition of influence and leadership. But Christian leadership goes like this. How many people will follow you as you follow Christ? Now that is, and I'm just going to say, that is a much harder, higher standard. Why? Because a lot of people, follow leaders because they want what that leader has. Why do they watch the YouTube Get Rich guys? Because these YouTube Get Rich guys have created the aura that they know how to become millionaires in a couple years. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe that Lamborghini that they flash on their channel is, 12 years old and wrecked. They don't change the body styles that much. They salvaged it, did the hard work of putting it back together. Now they try to act like they wrote a check for $500,000. I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they are really good entrepreneurs. But the people following them, and some of them are, some of them aren't. Some of them are charlatans. They're just humans. That means some of them are going to be legit, not a majority. And there's going to be a bunch of them that are pretending to be a legit, because it's much easier to pretend than it is to do the hard work and become. And that's true for everybody, from up here to the video booth. It's true for all of us. Much easier to pretend and really have a disconnect in our life. We can't afford that jewelry, but we want to wear it. You know what I mean? We can't afford that payment, but we want to drive that car. It's this disconnect. It's like, going through Starbucks and realizing the person serving you has way more fancy jewelry and watch than you do. You know what I mean? Is that wrong? No. Is it a sin? No. Some of it's personality. Some of it is just them living their life at that time. That's not the point I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to create a judgment culture where we're all professional Pharisees and we go around and saying, "Oh, he can't afford that car." That's not the point. The point is all of us are placed in this uh, disconnect between who we are, the cards we have, and the cards we wish we had. The bank account we have is about to get real quiet, and the bank account we wish we had. We all live there. It's not just you, it's me too. Okay, so the the challenge that I'm trying to refer back to is, if you're following this guy on YouTube, it might be because, and hear me, all you guys listen to me, it might be because you worship the same gods they worship. Does that make sense? So let's say you want to be a professional athlete. You find a professional athlete on YouTube, and what do? You just watch, and you love them, and it's okay. It's not sin. You guys know me trying to figure everything out in good and bad, right and wrong, sin and not sin. That is not helpful. That is not helpful. What that does is that creates a thin crust of righteousness over a hidden heart. What we want is a deeply pure heart, not a thin crust of pretend righteousness, okay? All right, moving along. So if you worship the gods of professional sports, why? You're following them not because they have influence, but because you want the same thing they have, okay? Now, this is true money, this is true sports, this is true popularity, it's true music, it's true everything. So why is it different for Christians? Well, There is a certain kind of life, and I want you guys to hear me. This isn't easy to explain, and I'm going to try, and there's a chance that anybody watching might misunderstand what I'm saying, and I apologize in advance for that, but I'm trying to get to the heart of something here. There is a certain kind of life where you have succeeded in the venues of your life because of your character, because of your discipline. You are a success as a father or a mother. You're a success as a student or a teacher. You are a success as a business person or a career person. You have succeeded in everything in your life, and even so, you desire God more than anything else. And when people look at your life, they see something admirable, but you're pointing to God. When they look at your business or your career, they see something admirable, but you're pointing to God. Is anybody hearing? This is the power of the story of Job. Isn't it interesting that Job wasn't broke? Y'all see how this can be misunderstood, because this can be used as justification for a prosperity gospel. But why is it not the prosperity gospel? Because in the prosperity gospel, the real God is the prosperity, and God is a means to a prosperity end. Y'all understand that? That's prosperity gospel, and that's opposite. What I'm talking about is all of these other things are arenas of competition, yes, capitalism. Arenas of study, yes, education. Arenas of risk-taking, yes, investing. But none of these are enough reason in themselves for you to find any type of lasting contentment. You're always going back to God. Now, I want to show you this real quick. This isn't in my notes, but a lot of leadership training is like this. It's just kind of opening up. Job's story would not be near as important as if he was broke. Now, why do I say that? I agree it's easy to misunderstand and use against me at some point. It's more important because he had everything this world could give him. He had wealth in every arena. Why does the Bible tell us about all the different types of livestock? Each one represents, in the ancient world, a different business. I want you to see this, okay? People who specialize in raising goats do not normally also raise cattle. People who raise cattle do not normally also raise donkeys. In the ancient world, which is agrarian and a lot of herdsman style business models, different types of animals requires different specializations. And in other words, Job is a success not as a individual businessman, but as an entrepreneur. He's got a donkey business that's legit. That's funny, ain't it? A donkey business. He's got a cattle business. Not only that, watch this. His kids are successful. He's a good father. Now, this is what makes the story so filled with pathos. And he loses everything this world can give him. And all of these things have become his identity. Over the years, I've had a lot of different licenses because of businesses I've been in. They're almost all construction related. But I recently found out that I had lost two of my big ones. And it was because of miscommunication between the licensing board at a state level and me. They had clearly told me one thing, and that wasn't correct. And I found out that they had removed me in spite of all the testing I've done, in spite of all the experience I've done, in spite of the works I've done for the state and the Army Corps of Engineers. They removed me. And it made me so mad. You know why? Because over the years, that has become part of my identity. And when I lost that, I told my wife, I'm going to go back. I'm going to take the test again. She's like, my God, it's 2 days and like 8 hours. I don't care. I don't care. They can jump in the lake. That's real spiritual, isn't it? The point is things become identity to you. So some of you, I'll pick on Kimry. Kimry's a fantastic student. Now she's on the education side on the education side, the teaching side. She was a good student. Now she's a good administrator. She's educated. She's forgotten more than I will ever know about all this stuff. You know what? If you all of a sudden if she finds out she can no longer work in her field, it's identity. Now go back to Job. He's lost everything he's been successful in. What are you going to do now? In the absence of the things of this world. And that's what the test is really about. What is your identity in? And of course, you know the story. Job refuses to let his identity be defined by all the successes of his life. In these different business models, he's been successful. He refuses. And he says, though he slay me, I will serve him. I know who I am. My identity is in him. Living, dead, my identity is in him. This is the genius of the book of Job. And so I want you all, if the Lord would help me to communicate this in a way, I want all of you to understand that there is a type of success that I want so much for you. I cannot do it for you. Sister Tanya cannot do it for you. The other mentors in your life cannot do it for you, but I want this for you so bad. And I want you to play a mind game. I want you to imagine that there is some type of, it's like these movies that are popular where there's some kind of games and the people have to like compete in all these different formats and venues. I want you to imagine on one hand, there is the challenge of your battle with yourself, character. Okay, that's one venue. On another side, think of the roles in your life. You have family. You are a son or a daughter. You have brothers and sisters. This is another venue in your life. Your students. At some point, you're going to be in career. At some point, you may start businesses. At some point, you may have children of your own. Every one of these is a different type of venue of testing. But if you obey, hear me, if you obey the Word of God and you take it seriously, I don't mean you just look for a formulistic kind of self-justification. I'm talking about you seek to know Him. And you take your heart to prayer, not just your words. I've prayed many an hour and I wasn't even there. You can take your words to prayer and act like the Lord's backslid and you're trying to pray Him through. You take your heart there. It is me, O Lord. You become aware, if you do this, the greatest Christian testimony I believe that can be done is to see a person who, because of the character that they have developed through the disciplines of their life and their heart, they're a success as a student. They are a success as a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter. They are a success in business or career. They are a success in their community. Let me say it this way. They have the Midas touch, and they choose God. That is a full spectrum leadership testimony that is so powerful, even the devil does a double take. Why? Even God's bragging on Job. He has been successful through nobody did it for him. There was no silver spoons. He did the work. He got up early. Job's bed was warm in the morning too. He just got out of it. Job didn't want to do the homework either. He just did it. And all of these accruing blessings is like a momentum machine. And as you have success, you have more success. And it takes, and I've often told this to young ministers I was mentoring, when you start ministry, it will feel like you have to make 10 units of effort to get 1 unit of return. But if you won't quit, a day will come where it feel like you getting 10 units of return for 1 unit of effort. It won't feel that way for a while, though. But anyway, let me get back on track. So why? The main difference in Christian leadership versus leadership is the goal toward which we are aiming and the reason for which we are working. And so one thing that I think all of us should do as we seek to be used in the Lord is we should continually ask the Lord in prayer, Lord, let my heart be right. When I am tempted to personalize this and make ministry opportunity some type of an extension of my ego, convict me. We cannot resist the chastening of the Lord. Chastening is a love letter from heaven. I want to say it again. Chastening is a love letter from heaven. Let me real quick just tell you a story, and then I'm going to try to wrap up here and take some questions. And also, those of you watching, we are going to leave it on for questions because I got complaints last week, or the last month I got complaints. They said the best part of the lesson was when you were taking questions. Your part wasn't even very good. It was the questions that were good. And so I'm responding to criticism, and I'm going to let the questions continue. And those who said that to me, well, you know who you are, and I love you too. Shackleton, the famous story of Shackleton on his ship Endurance, set out with a goal to be the first one to cross Antarctica on foot. They didn't even make it down there. They were trapped in the ice, and the ship eventually was crushed. And they all, knowing quite well the risks, it was very, very low chance of survival. And the idea that all of them would make it out is just statistically, how shall we say this? It's just terrible. Even today, hear me, even today with all our modern technology, it is absurdly easy to die in Antarctica. With all our tech, now go back without radios, without all the modern insulation and fabrics to keep you dry, how much harder would it have been, or easier would it have been for them? His original goal was to accomplish the glory, the fame of him and his men being the first ones to cross. And this was the age of explorers, so it was a big deal. They were like celebrities of their time. He had to change his why once the ship was crushed. Now, they ended up doing a lot of the same things, trudging across ice, enduring the cold. But now they had a very different reason. His goal now was not fame and glory. His goal now was to save his crew. And you can read his memoirs that he wrote, and he had to respond to the despair, the hopelessness, the infighting, the starvation. He had to keep everybody together. People who were losing their cool, he had to talk them down. He had to show real leadership. And he told his men in the middle of it this quote, difficulties are just things to overcome after all. There's so much subtle psychology in that statement. Quit being impressed by difficulties. Quit taking them personal. Do you see the subtle psychology in this? Difficulties are just things to be overcome after all. The captain of the ship, he was the leader of the expedition. He had hired a captain of the ship. The captain later in his memory wrote that Shackleton, quote, put the life of every man before all else. And you probably have heard the story above all else. Shackleton brought every single man home alive after crossing, or not crossing, but walking out of Antarctica until they found open water and could be rescued. So at some point, the why changed. As Christians, at some point, our why has to change. It's cool to have the money to live in the best neighborhood, but that's not a good why. If you want to be a Christian leader, at some point your why has to change. You may still end up blessed, but your why has to change. So, real quick, 10 things. Any leader who succeeds at anything from athletics to academia to business, even popularity, there's 10 things that are going to be there, and I will come back to these again. Number one, vision is the ability to see beyond the present and chart a direction in which you're going. If you don't have a vision, there's no sense learning about leadership. Even if you had people following, you wouldn't know where you were going. Vision is about able to see beyond the present and chart a direction. 2, courage is the willingness to face risk, danger, or in a more modern context, criticism and mockery for the sake of that vision that you are carrying in your heart. Number 3, integrity. All integrity is you don't have different lives in different places. You are what you seem like you are. You don't pretend to be somebody you're not. You have consistency across your life. You don't come to church and act like a Christian and then hang out with your bad friends and act like a gangster. There's consistency between words, actions, and values. Number 4 is resilience. When your feelings are hurt, what do you do? When you have setbacks, what do you do? Because everybody gets their feelings hurt and everybody has setbacks. But some people have resilience and they bounce back. Number 5 is wisdom. Wisdom is a fancy way of saying I make good decisions most of the time. It is amazing how good decisions add up. Number 6, you need to learn how to communicate. There is no leadership if you cannot communicate to people the path, the goal, the vision, to rally them. Number 7, empathy. You have to understand what the people who are following you are seeing and feeling. You have to care about that. Particularly in ministry, you have to care about the people. What is it like to sit under my leadership, not just what is it like to be me? Do you see? This is powerful. Real leaders understand empathy. If you don't have that, you will always have a problem with short-term followers. They will start to be influenced by you, but you will not maintain influence because you could not see into their experience. Number 8, discipline. This is exactly what you think it is, self-control and the ability to first lead yourself, to first say, this is what I'm going to do and stick to it. Number 9, adaptability. Your goals oftentimes will have different paths. You will even have goals that change. Some people, if they have one dream die, they fall apart and they go back to drinking. Now that's a joke, but the point being is you have to adaptability. I've gone through multiple dreams in my life, and a lot of the things that are most rewarding to me now were never on my list, my short list of dreams. I didn't know myself near as well as I thought I did. I thought I knew what would make me happy. Anybody over the age of 40 is smiling on the inside because you know exactly what I'm talking about. And number 10, accountability. Can you take responsibility, or are you an expert at finding a reason why failure had nothing to do with you? These are all leadership. Now, you could be in sports. These 10 things would still be necessary. You could be in career, and you will be. All these things will be necessary. You could be in ministry. You could be in missions. All of these things are still necessary. What's different about Christianity is that the goal of these things has changed. It's not that with Christian leadership you don't need resilience. You need everything you would need with any leadership. It's just our goal is different. So real quick, I'm going to give you 3 things that are pendulums. They're like the more you get this way on your pendulum, the more you would have a secular mindset. And the more you get this way on your pendulum, the more you would have a spiritual mindset. Number 1, ambition versus calling. Now, everybody understands ambition. You could say, I'm going to be the best baseball player that the world has ever seen. Okay, knock yourself out. Maybe you can do it. I'll be proud of you. I'll be like, I remember when I first taught him how to throw a baseball. I didn't teach you nothing, but I'm going to claim it because I love to make people laugh. So ambition versus calling. Calling is different than ambition. Ambition is something you want, and if you don't get it, you have to change your plans. Calling is something you choose for a higher purpose. You may or may not be successful. You're still called. Does that make sense? You may be preaching to thousands, and you might be teaching a home Bible study. But either one's okay because you're called. Does that make sense at all? That's huge. Ambition is, I want to be the greatest preacher in America. I want to have my own private jet, a church in California, and a church in Dallas, and a church in Atlanta, and maybe a church in Charlotte if I have time. And I just want to fly back and forth, and I just want to have the big life, and I want to, hang out with celebrities, and I'm going to be, and then it doesn't work out, and I feel defeated. That's not a calling. That's something you wish was true. That's ambition. Yeah, you're right. A calling is, I'm doing this, and here's why I'm doing this. God called me to do this. Now, I may pastor 1,000. All young preachers think they're going to pastor 1,000. It's actually pretty hard. I haven't figured it out. Everybody wants to have, okay, but a calling says, if this is as good as it gets, I was called to do this. Okay, with Christian leadership, you have to, your heart's always going to be pulling you toward ambition. Preachers, we have, or I'm not just preachers, ministers, I should say. We all have, dreams and fantasies about who we could be, latterly, too. But that's ambition. And you'll always know a sign is when your ego is dying. If you want to quit, you are too heavily drawn toward ambition and not calling. Number 2, power versus service. Now, if the idea of commanding rooms, leadership boards, and people, you being the shot caller of the decision maker, if that's a big draw in you, it's not necessarily bad. It's very human. Some people are wired that way. They want to be the, I am not the, nobody ever says, show me the assistant manager. No, they want to talk to the manager. You see, you understand my point? If you're the type of person you want to be in charge, that's not bad. You could use that to become very successful in various venues. It's not bad. It's not really good either. It's kind of human for some people. That's how they're wired. Okay? That is very secular view. The Christian side of that leadership is not power or authority, but it is service. To serve other people. Whoever wants to be great among you must be their servant. Lastly, there's image versus integrity. If you're drawn toward image, I want people to think I pray an hour a day. You're being very secular. If you actually want to pray an hour a day, I've got good news for you. It's available any day you want to do it. So this draw, the secular is to image, and the spiritual is integrity. And the secular, the image emphasizes brand, emphasizes charisma, emphasizes public perception. If you turn to a Christian style of leadership, you understand it rises or falls on character, who you actually are when people aren't looking, who you are when there isn't a crowd there and nobody knows your name. That's the Christian side of this. And so the image consultant says, protect your reputation. The Christian teacher says, guard your heart. Not the same thing. All right, I'm going to finish up right there. Lord, I pray you would help all of us to take seriously this challenge to live as Christian leaders, to exercise what we've been given, and to become who you want us to be in your kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so I'm going to open up for a few moments for questions from anyone, and let's just take a moment. We have one question right here. Go ahead. Yes. Yeah, that's very good. That's very, very good. To have ambition, basically the question is this, those of you online, the question is this. Ambition is all of us have ambition of some type. And there is usually a right way to pursue that, and then there is a counterfeit way to pursue that. I think this question is exactly what I was trying to get at with the idea of image versus integrity. Um, so when I'll use my own example as a young preacher, I very much wanted my peers to know me, to know that I was an upcoming young preacher. I was a somebody, and I very much wanted to be taken as a serious preacher, and so I'd get that camp meeting tone to my voice, my God, and I'd carry my schedule and calendar around with me, hallelujah. And I'd go down to where the other students were, and I'd say, oh, my God, blew my voice out this week preaching down in nowhere, Mississippi, and had 3 people get the Holy Ghost. And I am human too. Now, I did not do that as much as some people, but as an evangelist, a full-time evangelist, I would go take my RV to camp meetings, and us evangelists would have our RVs parked out there. And I would always be embarrassed when I had the cheapest, most broken down RV of all of them. And that meant all of them were doing better than me. And the truth was, they all were doing better than me. I was the only 22-year-old evangelist out there, you know. Well, I mean, I wasn't the only one, but in that lineup is what I'm saying. Uh, the shortcut is really the temptation to pretend I am somewhere I am not yet, versus to humble myself and accept the longer route that the Lord would take me on. If you ask me the most common spiritual advice I give people in any context, they might be fighting with their spouse and I'm trying to help them save their marriage. They might be mad at their team. They're a leader in the church. They're mad at their team and they want to quit. They might be discouraged because their kid wasn't chosen for the Christmas drama. The single most common advice I give, first of all, to myself, and if you doubt me on this, catch my wife sometime and she will affirm what I'm saying. The most common advice I give to people is, number one, humble yourself. It's not to pray. The truth is, the Bible teaches us that we can pray amiss. You can waste a lot of time praying amiss. God, give me a Cadillac. Okay. I mean, maybe that'll work for you, you know. The point being, the fastest way to anywhere in God is to humble yourself. So I would answer your question like this. First of all, a lot of people they're insecure and they are afraid they don't have much value. And so to combat their feelings of insecurity, they pretend like there's somebody they're not. They pretend like they have more money than they have. They pretend like they have a bigger evangelistic RV than they do. They pretend like they preach in camp meetings they ain't preaching. They're pretending like they've got Vesta on speed dial and they don't. And I would say to them, first of all, you are slowing down who you could be in God by living by living with a fearful identity. Whoever you are is who God has said you are. And whatever you have is where you are in God's unfolding journey. If you would like to actually get somewhere fast, pursue integrity and not image. If you want to really speed up, the how-to is always easy. Humble yourself. Why is it so important in the Bible that we confess one to another? What is the most mentioned doctrine in the Bible, least preached? Confession. Well, I just killed the spirit there, didn't I? So I'd like someone to shout out their worst sin today as loud as they can. No, that's a joke. Please don't do that. My point is, it's the most talked about, the most commanded, and least preached is confession. Because confession strikes to the heart of this integrity versus image thing. And the moment you know, I confess that I've struggled with prayer this whole week, I don't get to be as great a preacher, do I? The moment I tell you I have struggled with prayer this whole week, I cannot feel a single thing. all I can do. I try to pray, and all I can do is feel sorry for myself. You're like, is that really true? You got your phone out. My God, I'm talking about it. It may or may not be true. But I didn't make you think higher of me. But you know what I did? I chose integrity over image. Something about that touches the heart of God. And you cannot humble yourself consistently without God. Let me say it like this, strange way to say it. Without God falling in love with you. He loves a humble and a contrite spirit. And so I have totally, the biggest mistakes I have made in business was when I pretended to have a bigger business than I did. I've done 7 businesses in my life. 2 of them were abject failures. 2 of them were meh. No, 3 of them were meh. And 2 of them actually were pretty successful. But the biggest mistakes I've got myself into is when I pretended I knew about things I didn't know about it. Oh, we can do that. Well, I've never done it in my life, but I fronted. The biggest mistakes I've made in ministry have been when I pretended that I was stronger about things than I actually was. The closest I have ever been to self-destruction has been me pretending I was stronger than I was. And the closest I've ever got to causing serious harm in my relationship with my wife is when I let my vanity have the steering wheel of my mouth. Y'all didn't know your mouth had a steering wheel, but baby, it does. It does. You're just going down the road like this. You ain't got a friend left. Your mama's crying. Look, when your mama's crying. Anyway, moving along. So what am I trying to say? To answer the question, humble yourself. I'm not anybody. Now I do the exact opposite. Now I do the exact opposite. When I talk to somebody, first thing I tell them is, you forgot more about this. I'll call someone about something, instead of acting like I know about it too and I just need them to do this. I say, look, I know you forgot more about this than I know. The moment I say that, people want to help me. It's like a magic trick. All right. You want to make sure nobody helps you? Act like you don't need help. All right. Any other questions? I don't know if I answered that, but that's all I got for tonight. Any other questions? How about from my RISE candidates? Anything you want to? Oh. Yeah, I will. Go ahead. Yeah. Look, what you're referring to is very human. Excuse me, pardon me. I planned to do that. I just wanted to test everybody's reactions. Um, what you're talking about is very human, Joseph. The first thing I'd like to say about it that I'm going to be like the Lord. I'm going to give and I'm going to take away. Okay, here's the given. It's very human. You're at a stage of your life where it's absolutely normal to be very influenced by the people around you. But here's the truth: the you will know when you're making progress when it doesn't worry you as much. You'll know you're making progress when you don't. This person says that about you. You're like, okay. And that person says that about you, and you're like, okay. Um, the more you try to be a person somebody expects, the more you are challenging your own integrity. So I would say the sooner, now it takes time. I'm not going to act like I had this when I was your age. I was probably worse than you at your age, okay? But the sooner you can get to a stable identity, the sooner, and that's going to come through, first of all, that's going to come through earning your own respect. You have to live a life that you would respect. And if you aren't doing that, and you aren't being honest about it, you'll always be deeply wounded by what other people care about you because you're cueing your value off what they think about you. But as soon as you start impressing yourself, I'm sorry, I think about things differently, and sometimes it's awkward to hear. Yeah. Well, don't say it like that, Joseph. We all care. We all care. We don't want to be imprisoned by it. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't have specific. I don't have a formulistic answer for you. Um, I I let me just say this: the more you do the hard work of becoming, the more steady you will be in who you are. That's going to involve your school, it's going to involve your career, it's going to involve your relationships, it's going to involve, most importantly, your relationship with God. But if I were to sit up here and tell you, oh, if you just talk in tongues long enough a day, it won't be a problem, I wouldn't be helping you that much because it's some of this is just human. It's part of the journey. So I would encourage you. I would encourage you in this way. Don't try to solve the problem of a long journey. Just try to take a step in that direction. Okay, I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but I'm saying I still care too much about what people think of me, and I'm 276 years old. I still care too much. So what you're describing, I'm still fighting. And so what you and I are in this together on is every day we have to do the work of integrity, not image, integrity. Out of integrity comes um, this rising confidence, a type of emotional, psychological steadiness. I am who I claim to be. I'm not fronting. I'm not pretending. I am who I claim to be, and I am tied through faith and devotion to my Creator. And that stability will day by day, step by step. I don't know how to tell you to get on a self-confidence jet plane and get off, and the goal where you don't care and you're confident. I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe that's why people take drugs, because that way they don't have to do the hard work. And the drug gives them the temporary emotion as though they are the person they want to be, and that's why they're addicted to it. Is because drug gives them the sense that they are who they want to be, but they're not that person. They're not confident. They're not happy. They're not self-assured. They're a mess, but the drug for a little while lets them pretend like they are. Now, for the rest of us, we have to do the hard work of becoming that person, and there is there's no shortcut. It's the daily work. I choose to live with integrity today because every commitment I make in my life, I have to choose it every day or it's gone. Every covenant in my life, I have to choose it every day. I have to choose. I have to choose my wife every day. I can't just choose her at the wedding altar. I choose her every day. I have to choose my kids every day. I have to choose my faith every day. After I get done teaching this and acting like I know all this stuff that maybe I do, maybe I don't know, tomorrow I have to choose my faith. And people are going to come in and out of my life. And this one's going to say, oh, Pastor Nathan thinks he's something. Other people's going to be like, oh, I wish, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be. But I really can't fix any of that. All I can do is choose my faith today. And over time, people notice. The people who don't notice, you don't need to worry about them anyway, because they're not worth taking seriously. But the people who, again, don't try to impress everybody. You shouldn't have a list this long of people you're trying to impress. You should have a fairly concise list. And at the top of it should be your Creator. These are the people you're trying to impress. So that was a terrible answer to that question. I'm sorry. I'll try again next week, okay? Next question. Expectations, yeah. The question is, for those of you who couldn't hear her, how do we deal in a healthy way with the pressure, the expectations that come with working in leadership? And some people think you should do this, other people think you should do that, other people think you did that good, you didn't do that good, and you're always trying to. Um, that's a tough one. I'm probably not qualified to give you an answer on this. I do know this. I I have a mental game I play. I've done it. I did it today. In fact, I've done it a lot recently. Um, Whenever I feel like this person wants me to do that, that person thinks I ought to do that. Um, I imagine that I'm at the. I imagine I'm at the white throne judgment, and God's standing there or sitting there, and I'm transported right back to the same moment where I have to make a decision. And I imagine myself lifting my eyes. Sorry if this is too dramatic, it's just my personality. And I say, Lord, this is what I thought I should do, and this is why I did it. I learned that from my dad. You're never going to please everybody. But if you can say in this, God gave us this amazing mind, if I can put myself in the situation at the white throne judgment, and I can say before God, I know they wanted this, and they wanted this. And I know they were talking, saying this, and I know what the neighboring church, and I know this is why I did this. And then I make a defense. I don't know if this is psychologically healthy, but this is me. I make a defense of myself. I make an appeal. You know, it's like an essay is an attempt. It's French for an attempt. I make an attempt to tell the Lord why I did what I did. And if I'm satisfied with that attempt, I can make a decision and I can let everything fall where it will. And here is the scriptural support for it. If our conscience does not condemn us, we have peace with God. I don't know if that works for your personality. The idea that you're going to please everybody